Welcome to Breaking Down Bits, a conversation about great comedy bits with the comedians who wrote and performed them.
Welcome to Breaking Down Bits. I'm Brian Gendron.
Hey, I'm Drew Jordan, and we're glad to still be alive and doing this podcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for I don't know, maybe just being a comedian who wants to get better. Want to give you just a positive affirmations, like get in here, learn something, take it to the stage this week. We have a great conversation lined up for you today with a guy who actually just came and performed here in Houston, and it was really great watching him work firsthand. So I'm sure it's going to be a beneficial thing for anyone. We'll get there in a second. But first and foremost, make sure you check out all the previous episodes, breakingdownbits.com. You can get all the links to your favorite platforms, all the previous episodes, including the one that we did just last week or a week before. Yeah,
Caitlin Palufo, great interview. She's so much fun, and we'll have her on the show here in Houston in January. But a callback I had for our talk with Caitlin was hosting. We talked a lot about hosting, just being comfortable in that host position, being able to keep the momentum of the show going when needed. And I was really inspired. And in fact, I took it to stage this past weekend and just had some really fun host sets. And sometimes I dread hosting, and now I'm excited about it again. So she breathed some life back into hosting for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about being comfortable hosting. I think one of the things that I got out of her conversation was something about kind of being comfortable and uncomfortable at the same time, because she is an on-stage writer. She's not really someone that's pen to pad and prep and like got everything figured out before she steps on stage, which I thought was pretty interesting to me, because I am very much a planner. I'm very much a prep guy, and I typically perform my best when I feel like I'm the most prepared before a set. And so, but I think that's kind of a challenge, though, is just to be more in the moment. And I think that's never a bad thing. And so I'm kind of challenged a little bit to go, hey, in the moment when you're doing something, if an opportunity arises, lean into it a little more than you typically would, see what comes of that. Because I think I'm not really a huge crowd work guy, but I think it's so fun and it's neat what you can get and what you can add to a bit when you just let loose and maybe go a few steps further in a crowd interaction and take a leap, a swing at something that just comes to mind while you're on stage. It's a little scary, but you never know what you might get out of it.
Yeah, and if you can, video all that stuff, right? Because we see so many comics that come to our room that are excited that we tape our shows, because then they can use those moments without giving away material to post on social media and continue to grow following that way, catching those special moments. So yeah, check out that episode with Caitlin and all of our episodes. Also, we had a great mic this past week, last Tuesday. Every Tuesday we do our online open mic. I thought it would die after the pandemic. It is stronger than ever, Drew. You can email us, breakingdownbits@gmail.com, asking for a spot, or hit us up on any of the social medias at Breaking Down Bits. DM us and ask for a spot. Tuesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern time, like clockwork. We're there basically every week.
Yeah, and a feedback mic. So you come in, you do your time, and you have maybe 5-6 other comedians from all around the world, all around the nation at least, giving you some feedback, giving you tags, giving you input, just to make each other better. It's a great time, and everyone who comes in there, it's really a fun little crowd, and friendships are born there. It's been really cool.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and bring in our guest. You ready?
Let's do it.
Caleb Synan is a nationally touring comic currently based in LA. His unique background as a preacher's kid from a small southern town gives him the ability to relate to any and every crowd. He won the title of wittiest in Franklin County High School's 2009 yearbook, but you probably know him from his performances on Conan, Last Comic Standing, and Bill Burr's stand-up show, The Ringers, on Comedy Central. He filmed his first stand-up comedy special with Comedy Central in 2021. He's entertained the troops in South Korea and Japan, and he's got a podcast called What's It Called? I mean, no, that's actually, I know what it's called. That's the name of, you get it.
Wow, man, that made me look so successful. I love that. That was a great montage. Damn. What
Hey,
a cool guy.
it's actual clips of your actual career, so you are exactly that successful.
Wow, and the song in the background, that's just that was some good work. We should end there. Nothing I'm gonna say is gonna be as cool as that music. And oh man,
Well, thanks for joining Breaking Down Bits. Everybody get out there and go out there and be successful. Be inspired
yeah,
by that video.
It's been a good episode,
yeah,
guys. Have a good one.
yeah. Inspired me. Hell yeah.
Well, we're happy you're here, man. This is like Drew said up top. We worked with you not too long ago, and just really enjoyed talking comedy with you. And it seemed like a natural fit. We get on here and share this with the world on Breaking Down Bits. So, first place, let people know who you are, and basically what we want to know is how you started your comedy career, and then walk us through the over the years, maybe some of the breaks you've had along the way, however you want to take that. But we want to hear about you and your path through comedy.
Wow, sweet. Well, to me, it's kind of so much of it, I think, is growing up when Seinfeld was on a lot. Because why would you not want to live that life? Everybody Loves Raymond was on too, and I was like, ugh, seems he's got the mom and his wife and his kids. It seems miserable.
Same.
Frasier, he like lives with his dad, and I'm like, oh no, you got to take everyone who had to take care of a loved one seemed miserable. And everyone with a family, it just seemed like a lot. And Jerry Seinfeld's just eating cereal, talking shit with his friends. I was like, what a great life, and he's best friends with his ex. Like, it was like all these impossible things. I was just like, and I saw an interview recently where it was like, that's also impossible. I've never been friends with an ex with that. I don't even know how we got that on TV. But it just seemed like this fantasy land that a little 8-year-old, of course you want to live that life. And once sports and singing and shit didn't work out, I was like, that's it. There we go. So when I was in college, there were some open mics around town, and a couple of my buddies were on them, and they were pretty good, but a lot of the comics sucked and were just bombing, and it was like the most uncomfortable I'd ever been in my life, just watching in the crowd. I remember I was sitting in the front row like an idiot, and I was just like, this is so bad. I didn't know it could be this bad, because you've never seen it be that bad, because they would never put that on TV. So it blew my mind how bad someone could be at comedy, and I immediately knew if they're letting someone be that bad over and over again, then I can do it. And next thing you know, I was doing it, and what do you know? I was that bad. I was one of the worst comedians alive, and no one made me quit. And for months and months, I was just dead silence. I was as bad as you can be. And eventually I started getting some laughs when I started talking about a few months in. I was like, oh, I'll make fun of, being a preacher's kid or this thing. Like I had this bit about people think masturbating's a sin because the guy spilled his seed on the ground and God struck him dead. And my dad told me, like, no, that's not the sin of masturbation. That's the sin of pulling out. He was supposed to produce an heir to the throne. And so I remember that was distinctly. That was the first time a crowd laughed. They're like, whoa, sin of pulling out. And so I started doing like family stuff and like life stuff, and stopped trying to be Eddie Murphy, and started going better. And eventually I got on, the first big break was getting asked to do a show. That's, instead of begging to get 5 minutes at a bar. So the first time someone asked me to do a show was big. It was I called my parents, not paid. No one was at the show. It was worse than a lot of open mics, but someone asked me. And that was a big deal. And then after that, I got asked to do a show at the local club and open for a headliner. That was huge. And then still not paid, but I was asked. And then eventually I got paid, got $30. That was big. And then after that, I remember it was getting a good tape. I got a good tape about 2 years in. And then the good tape got me into festivals. And then in the festival, I got into the Laughing Skull Festival. That got me seen by the Just for Laughs booker. Did that. That got me seen by the Conan booker. And then after that, I got like managers, and it was that. But those are the kind of the ladders. And like whenever I know it's annoying, but comedians are always obsessed with a good tape, but it's the most important thing in the world. A good tape is the most important thing.
If we could interject, what would you say is your definition of a good tape? What makes a great tape?
I think not knowing you're being filmed. That's the only way I have found to get a good one. There's just no way to really capture because you're thinking of it instead of getting out there and going, "Hey, oh, look, hey, oh." Instead of having a fun energy, you're out there and you're like, "Hello, it is me, the comedian. Here's the first 3 words to the first joke I have," and it's just I can't. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to get a good tape. Knowing every time I set my stupid tripod up, I bomb my little ass off, and yeah, it's just you got to get someone to film you surreptitiously, and then later on you go, "Oh, we film," and I was like, "Huh?" That's the best thing in the world. And then that's how I got my first good tape, and that's very valuable.
I think
I owe everything to that first tape.
at the Riot, we just film almost every set, and so now
Oh, that's great.
you can sometimes disassociate with that fact.
Right,
And
I'd forgotten about it by the end of the week, so I'm like,
yeah.
I'm super pumped to see those and be like, "Oh man, look at me being funny and forgetting." You know,
So
That's
after
fun.
the tape got you festivals, got you Just for Laughs, Conan.
Yeah, yeah.
What has transpired since Conan? Where are we at now?
Well, once I did Conan, I was at least you finally have like your parents stop telling you to go back to school, which is nice. But it's still, I always assumed as a comedian, oh, I do Conan the next day, I will headline every comedy club in the country, probably other countries. You know, they're probably all of them were probably watching last night, so they probably already penciled me in, and that didn't happen at all. I don't think anybody saw it, and so it was cool for your social media for a couple days. It was like, oh yeah, and then you kind of forget, oh, I still don't have any money, and eventually I started getting gigs, but that took a while. I don't. I think it was like because you forget even if somebody it's like I have a wonderful comedy club and that was a great set on Conan. I'll book him in 2 years. Like that means not like they don't care. They're just like, yeah, that was great, but they're not as concerned with your rent as you, so they're not going to, break their neck booking you on a dime. So it took a while for those to kick in, but that was huge when I started in 2017, like halfway through 2017 was when I started getting a bunch of gigs. And then I did Conan again, and then it was just like it was amazing. I was just getting like a comedy club every month, which is all I needed at the time to pay the bills. And yeah, it was incredible. And then you know, I kind of started trying to change up my act and like not do all the same, like to be more intentional with bits. Because the first few years you're just doing whatever works. I'll try every thought I've ever had and keep the ones that get laughs, and that's the act. And more recently, I've been like, okay, let's try to have something. Let's try to make this better, make this stand out, make this more
Mm.
funny, and funny in more ways, and like improve each bit every night, and like stuff like that. That's less fun, but you have time during COVID to do all that, and because there's no fun allowed. So that was cool.
Gotcha. Well, it's hard to write in such an uninspiring time when you're just kind of confined to your small space, whatever that may be in the country.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really, yeah.
Because
But
what whimsical observation could you have had during lockdown other than that? It's like
Yeah.
it's weird about dating, and it's like what is weird about it? No one is doing it. No one alive is doing it. That's weird.
What was so weird about COVID and then the lockdown portion, I think, was that when we came out of all the lockdowns, the proportion of people or proportion of comics who said they didn't write anything during the
Oh wow.
lockdown was high. Like,
Yeah.
and I didn't write a ton either. I thought this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to my writing. I thought now I'm working from home. I got nothing to do at night. I'm just gonna write. I'm gonna have an hour's worth of, and just the despair took over. I think it
Yeah.
wasn't like I was noticing the other night. I went out to the grocery store. I went to a grocery store that I don't typically go to. I don't go to Whole Foods a lot, so I go to Whole Foods last night. And I was just noticing like there's something about being in a new experience or a new situation that just like your brain starts blowing up with thoughts. So when all I saw was the inside of my apartment for a year and a half, there was no
Right.
explosions of ideas.
Yeah, there's no inspiration. Like Darwin didn't come up with shit at his house. Not one idea at his house. You know
The
what I mean?
Galapagos really turned it on for him.
Nothing. Yeah, you gotta get out there because it's horrible when you just have the same. So many jokes that I wrote during lockdown. I had to go way back. Like I was like, "What's up with third grade, huh? After second grade, what are we doing here? Third grade?" Like, because I was like, "What else am I going to talk about? I don't know shit else." So I came up with a bunch of school-related jokes, but that was all I could really think of.
Well, I think it's always nice to go back in the past. I do a lot of that. I'm actually also a preacher's kid as well.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of my act is biographical and remembering how unique that upbringing was and just trying to share that in a fun way.
Yeah, and people love that. People laugh at things we don't even think are like I was at a Halloween party last night and somebody was like, what have your other costumes been other years?" And I was like, "None. I didn't do it." And I was like, "Well, I didn't do it the last 2 years. And I didn't do it, and as a kid it sent you to hell." And they're like laughing and I'm like, I'm not exaggerating. That was wrong and pagan and All Hallows Eve. And they're like, "What? And what's pagan about it?" And I was like, "I don't know. That's what they were saying at the time." And since then, everybody kind of has like relaxed. It seems like people are like, "Oh, I guess it wasn't." And they're like, "Oh, I guess we kind of overreacted about the Da Vinci Code and Pokemon and Captain Planet and all that."
Isn't
Everybody,
isn't that funny though? Like in the things in your past where people ask you the questions, there's material in there. Whenever people, because there's interest and it's just because that was different for them, and so that's potentially unique to you, or at least in a form that can be shared on stage that could be interesting and turned into funny.
Yeah, and I thought for so long I thought everyone whose dad wasn't a preacher was happy and like just had fun and like they're just sitting there reading Harry Potter with their dad and like it's having the best life of not preach. My dad works at the bank. It's gonna be a good night. And you know, you talk to all your friends and like, "Yeah, my dad was a dick." And I'm like, "Oh, I thought it was just me who was upset." But it's like, I guess there's worse. It's just confusing to people. People are just like, "What?" Yeah, of the things that are actually damaging, the things that like our dads chose to focus on, it's always funny.
Yeah, there's always something damaging that your parents are going to do to you, no matter which direction in life they chose. They're still going to damage you, just in a unique fashion.
And like, what am I doing to my son? I'm
Yeah,
a comedian
yeah.
now.
And so
What am
I'll
I
take
doing?
mine could have been worse.
Yeah.
Hey, you're riffing probably a lot. When your kids tell you a joke, sometimes you'd be like, "Oh, it's kind of a false premise."
Hack.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like
one thing I want
jealous
to
of
hit.
tickling or something.
Yeah.
Tickling kills.
Yeah.
One thing I really wanted to hit on, because we talked about it a lot while you were here, is your album and recording that album, and then how to monetize that, because that's seems to be something you just went through, and such an important thing that we've talked about a bit on the show, but we'd love to dive in a little more. So talk about what you've done recently and where it goes from here.
Yeah. So that was the thing that I had always kind of been like, because you can always go too far to either side of anything, which is like the least popular opinion in the world. 'Cause everything's complicated, everything has a middle ground. But that's how I've always been living. And you have the people who are like never do a special, but that's sort of an old timey way of looking at comedy. I think it's not as realistic now for most people. Like Jay Leno was always saying that, "I'll never do a special. You keep your jokes, you make more money that way, whatever." And Norm Macdonald did that for years. I heard in an interview because of Jay Leno. And then finally in 2011, he'd been in the game 30 years, you know, and he finally does a special and it's incredible. It's like everyone's favorite. It's like every joke's just a diamond. It's just perfect and hilarious and legendary. Um, and I hadn't done one for the first 10 years. I'd had people when I started in Atlanta. I had friends who were a year in who were like, yeah, I'm doing an album. And it didn't seem that weird to me. And there were people doing them all the time. And I was like, maybe I should do one. And I just never did. I never did. I never did. So I was like, I want to do like, a half hour on Comedy Central. I want to do an album with Comedy Central. I want to do all, I had all these ideas. And then finally during COVID, I was just like, I have this act. I've worked really hard on it for 10 years. And finally, I get an offer for an album, and I was just like, honestly, it seems like the right time. I'm gonna put all this stuff out, and then try to start on something new after COVID. Who's gonna notice anyhow? It's like I was working on this thing. Let's put it out, and then work on a new one. Because a lot of people were doing just like you said, who were like, I'm starting over anyway after COVID. I don't want to do all my old stuff, and so I worked really hard on it, and I accidentally ended up writing new stuff that went on there that kind of fit in because I was running it so many times that it kind of got better, and I was like, oh, this was a good idea, and I started writing more than I ever had, and now I'm like, it's amazing. I've been in a real cool place and coming up with stuff I really like and enjoying coming up with new stuff instead of just hating your way to it. Like I'm so used to just hating my act so much that I had to, which is kind of a negative way, but and so yeah, the albums are. It's not just like I want to stop doing it. I don't think everyone alive has heard it. I honestly don't think that many people at all have heard it. And I think most of the people that have heard it didn't know it was me. They just heard it on XM or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just you're doing more shows. Your stuff's getting more out there. So I recommend to a lot. If you got a good act and you're like, oh, should I put it out? Should I save it? Should I burn it? I think I did it 10 years in. I don't know. It's different for different comics or whatever. But I think it's a fun thing, and you find out that a lot of your stuff's already out there getting played, which is a cool surprise when you're like, what? They've been playing I saw one thing, they've been playing one of my things for like 6 years. I had no idea.
Oh, wow.
And so you get money for that, and that's and you deserve it. They're getting money with your stuff, so you deserve it. And I think that albums are a lot of fun, and I can't wait to do another one. And I love the process of it. And you forget how bored America is. Like people are in their cars bored, they're at home bored, they're at work bored, they're on the train bored, and people just need something. And I'm amazed at how many people, for me, and I am as unknown as you. I mean, I know there's people who just started, and I've had a few TV things, but like I'm still pretty much not known at all. So the fact that there's people who are just like, whatever, I'll listen to this. And you're like, there's no way they could have known who I was. But they're just like, hey, it's something. People just want something. And there's as intentional as your algorithm on Instagram. You're just scrolling, you're like, what's this? Who's that? And then someone can burn an hour and be like, no, that was all right. Cool. Or they like it or they hate it. It's crazy. And I was so worried no one would listen to it. But I've been very surprised and happy that it's gotten. I mean, there's so many music services. There's Pandora, there's Apple, there's Tidal and Amazon and Spotify and YouTube. I mean, it's like it's on all these, and you're like, it adds up, and it's really cool. I'm excited that it got out there like that. And if someone likes you at all, now they got a whole hour.
Any thoughts on releasing an album versus like a visual special? Like maybe I was thinking, I have no experience with this personally, but I would just assume that if you were just releasing it in audio form, you could cut and chop a little more, and you could maybe, like it'd be just easier to edit if you wanted to combine a couple of performances, whereas the video is just a little more intensive. It's more expensive. Did you do both?
No, I just did. We filmed a good bit of it, but it was mostly like I think just like with a podcast, it's cool to have your audio and video component because sometimes with my favorite podcast, I'll listen to half of it, on the train, then pick up, watch it when I get home.
Mhm.
And so I think it's cool to have both. And a couple of the bits from the album are going to be on the special I did with Comedy Central. But I was thinking about before that happened, I was like thinking about filming it. But I mean, most of the stuff is burned now. But I think the next time, if I don't get a offer from Netflix or Comedy Central or one of those like places, that I'll do what a lot of comics do and just put it up all on YouTube and hope it gets out there. But those are so cool when you find those ones where you just uploaded this on your account and it has 10 million. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they make, but it's got to be cool. It's got to be. I see those ads, all those Dr. Squatch and mattresses, shirts that hide your beer gut. They're always like things that hurt my feelings. Or it's like, what is this algorithm? I'm a big, fat, stinky piece of shit.
That's what Facebook wants you to know about yourself and
Yeah.
YouTube. Well, I think Zoltan has had
he's got a bunch.
He was, I mean, we had him in town, you know, he was traveling with Dustin Nickerson, and Dustin was just like, this guy's prolific. He just writes and writes and writes and writes. And you can see that he's posted like in the last, 2 or 3 years, he's got like 3 different hour specials on YouTube, and they're all really good.
Yeah, he writes like crazy, and I couldn't believe it. He told me, he was like, "Yeah, man, you got to film it. He was like, I had one that was just the film the comedy club gave me. It was just one camera in the back at a club, and I posted it. I put full special and the title and everything, and he's like, it got 1 million views in like a month. He was like, it's crazy, and he's like, I'm not famous. It's just people want content. They want if you got a full comedy special and you wrote it and it's good, even if you're not famous, people want it. And that's cool to remember. Like it's easy to feel like no one likes comedy. Like just on Twitter, it feels like no one likes it. But then you remember, oh yeah, people do like it. People need something to fill their time. Yeah,
they're okay with comedy.
I love what you said too. You know, it kind of gave you the freedom to enjoy writing new bits, and we actually got to see you in action. So one thing that Caleb does is if he feels like he's having a good time with the audience, or maybe it was just, if you just do this every time, either way, you ask their permission. You say, hey, can I try some new bits out on you guys? And then you go through the bits, and you put your notes out just to kind of cue you, but you don't really go back to it after that. But you know, it's this experience where they know they're a part of it. And I think you even said it, like they feel like they're in on it because they're hearing it for the first time. And so they're on board with it, and they'll let you know if it sucks.
Yeah. And they're not as mad that it sucks because you've warned them that it might.
Right.
And they're delighted if it's good. So you kind of remove, it's like bumper bowling, but you still know if it was a good roll. It just doesn't hurt your feelings. But you can tell if it smacks into that bumper real hard. But I just, a couple of my buddies, Stephen AJ and Troy Walker do it. They're a couple of Denver guys that are out in LA now. And I saw them do it, and I was like, that seems amazing. And I didn't think, I was like, you know, all those insecure comedy thoughts. Oh, how could it work for me? Could new bits work for me? Like, yeah, of course, idiot. So I started trying it, and it works great. I've been, sometimes you don't really get a lot out of it, but it's working recently. I've gotten like a good 15, 20 minutes of stuff out of that. And, you know, at this rate, it's like, who knows how much of it actually will last, but a lot of it's working now. So I'm thrilled about it. It's a really fun way to try it. And it's not patented. Anybody can do it. You can, you can do a solid 30 minutes and then try out new stuff if you're headlining, and the crowds don't seem to mind.
It's actually my new opener. I just come out and go, hey guys, do you mind if I try some new stuff? It's all new. They're like, we've heard these. Nope. Brand new. Everything's new, guys. I guess now is a good time to, as we're talking about writing, to go ahead and transition into that. One of the things we always get into on the Breaking Down Bids podcast is the open-ended answer, however you would like to. How does Caleb Synan write comedy?
Well, I've tried every way. I've tried all the ways, and I've not really any of them work that well for me. So I just kind of have to do whatever I can think of all the time and throw it all at the wall, because it's really just a numbers game. It's like I'm a very inefficient comedian. Like 9 out of 10 ideas I have are shitty, and they don't work, and they're more of a thought than a joke. But I'm still just an idiot. I think all my thoughts are hilarious, and a lot of them are just thoughts. They're just thoughts. But I think a good 1 in 10 are worthwhile. So I'm just all the time. Like today, I probably already wrote down like, 10 today. Just living, just like writing them down. I just usually in my phone or a notebook. A lot of times I'll text them to myself. I'll write them. I'll say them into my Apple Watch. I'll write them on a pad. I do it a lot, and it's usually just something very simple. Like here's the ones I've written down today. Everybody hits a light switch. Cool. You know, even people that aren't cool, everyone you try it, no one just stops like a video game character and flicks it on. Everybody has to do it nonchalant like a detective. I've never seen it. The biggest nerd in the world flicks it on like a badass. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. That's maybe a thought. It might not be accurate. It might not be. I don't know. But I thought about it and I was like, isn't that weird that everybody
Even if it's not stand up, that's like a sketch. Like that's a thing. Like, or if you're like involved in a sketch and you're like flipping on a light switch, like that could be a whole thing. You know,
right. And
so
I don't
you never
know.
You never know.
You never know what it is. So I always write down. I wrote down. Oh yeah, in school when every once in a while the principal would come sit in the back of your class and just like fucking own your teacher and really like a mafia don and just like silently watch, not saying a word. That's a fucking move, you know. And the teacher just teaches. They don't, you know, what are they gonna get caught doing? Like, hey, you kids are all pieces of shit. And they're like, oh, why I forgot. And so a lot of school stuff, stuff like that. And so I just text it real quick. I'll just write down a few. I wrote down principal sitting in on teacher, and it's like next show I have, I'll try it out, and if it works, I'll keep doing it. And if it does, I mean, I tried to write bits out fully, but they come across very Paul F. Tompkinsy when I do that. I'll be like, I was thinking about school today, and here's a thought I had. Why did the teacher? And it just turns into, or Mulaney. It's like it gets into that, and that just doesn't work. That style doesn't really get laughs as much as you have the idea and then you just figure it out. I don't write on stage really. I come up with the idea and then I flesh it out. But you know, there's no writing on stage for me. It's just
you're not
like,
wordsmithing necessarily pen to pad, trying to get that's all in your head.
Right. Yeah. I write it down. I can I guess talk it out, but it's like there's no the only writing gets done like in my room. I can try and fail on stage and add and subtract, but it's like that's just the kind of editing and fleshing. There really is something to the writing, but I can't, if I write it out and then perform it, it sounds like a soliloquy and it's not funny at all. And I just can't pull that style off very well.
So would you say that when you perform some of these jokes that you do wordsmith them different night to night, or do you finally find or maybe eventually you find a locked in way you say it, but maybe early on it's always slightly different?
Yeah, and then sometimes once you get it nailed down into a really good kind of order for that bit, and you have the eye movements and you got the act outs and you got the voice change, you got all that. That usually only lasts a few months till you need to switch it up again because it's just a new time and you're a little older and the joke's a little older and things have kind of changed. And you should have, hopefully, after a year of doing a bit, thought of something else in that area of comedy. So I try to keep it from staying the exact same because, like, I mean, Brian Regan is one of my all-time faves, and he every time I see him, he'll do a bit from his first album, and it's twice as long and twice as good, and it's got a million new parts, and you're like, damn, he kept working on it. And so that's something that I think I try to live up to and almost never do, but I try to keep it alive, and not.
I'm really glad you talked about eye movements and act outs because that's a big part of your performance. There's act outs, voices, and facial expressions and eye movements. So it sounds like those things kind of collect over time. You have your sort of, we'll call it written stuff that you brought to stage, and then you start building on it, building those components in.
Yeah, well, a lot of it's that I come to the stage with just the idea. Like, in a couple of days, I'm probably tomorrow, I'm going to try out principal sitting in on the teacher. And I'll probably go, hey, remember this? And then that'll get a nice chuckle. And then I'll go, well, that's kind of all I thought of. And then my brain will go, And then I'll go, yeah, he comes and he sits down. And then I'll sit on the stool and look like a principal and be like, maybe that'll make him laugh. And then that'll get a chuckle. And I'll go, that's still not good enough. And then I'll be the teacher on the board and I'll be writing and I'll be like, oh, shit, And then the kid, he asked the kid to come up. The kid's got an erection. The principal's got an erection. He's got an erection. They're all like, no, I hope no one see. I don't know. You just have to, I'll throw everything against the wall because there's no ending yet. There's no punchline. So that's where I come up with all that stuff, floundering. and then after, usually it takes a good 2 or 3 months, I'll have a nice button on the end. But all the floundering led to a lot of acting that scene out because I have nothing else to do. I just have a funny premise and my dick in my hand, so I need something. I need my eyes and I need my hands, and I gotta do something or else I'm gonna die. And then that's just kind of my very inefficient way of doing it. But it's pretty fun to do it that way, and it's the only thing that's worked so far. So
I think, I mean,
and
isn't that,
it's all up to it's all up to each comedian.
yeah, isn't that kind of the fun part though? Like, our part of comedy is keeping it fun for yourself, because
Yeah,
otherwise you're going to jump off a bridge probably. Like, I
right.
think there's some, I've learned for me personally, in even just the short time that I've been doing comedy, that if I don't do a new bit or do something fresh or do something for me in the set, it can start to just feel like I'm doing a monologue, that
Hmm.
I'm punching the time card and I'm saying the same things. Like, if I don't find a way to make it fun for me, I start to hate it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can hate anything. You can hate anything that's not new and not fun. And you can burn out. It's like just like with diets and exercise. Like people always burn out because of that. And if you can find what works for you and makes it fun for you about it, instead of going and trying to be the Rock overnight, maybe find a way to exercise that doesn't make you want to die, so that you don't give up. Find a way to write that doesn't make you want to punch a hole in the wall.
Hmm.
And you know, hopefully, as long as you really want the end result, if you really want those new jokes and you really want to get writing on stage, off or whatever. But I finally found a way, and this is literally this year that I'm like, I can't wait to do it. I
Mm.
love doing it this way right now, and it might change, but it took me 10 years, so I don't know. What do I know? If you're a new comic listening, who knows? But I say in the new time, like try it all out, because who knows? And I know some people love writing it out. They just write it out, and that's their style. But that's very hard for me.
I think
Yeah.
those ebbs and flows of, you're on a hot streak right now, you have a good hitting streak going, and then you'll have the slump, and
Yeah,
that's just anything. But one thing I want to say, you use all the tools. I do this. I think we write in a very similar. I guess you call it inefficient. So I write inefficiently
yeah,
too, but I do we use all of our other tools in our chest, including some of the act outs you talked about, even delivery. We know we've been doing it long enough where we can deliver something without a punch, but because it's delivered in the cadence that the audience knows to laugh, they'll still laugh. And so
yeah.
that's how we can navigate and figure out, get to that punchline eventually. And I've got bits like that. They're not finished yet, but I can still draw laughs on the journey because of the other tools that
Right.
we have to use on stage. So I do the same thing.
Yeah. Not every bit has to be. Obviously, if you're doing a special, you want it to be the hits. But if it's just a night, like some of my favorite times seeing a comic headline, there's always a few moments that go nowhere, but it's that makes it fun. It makes it
Yeah.
fun to see that. And not everything has to be a 10 out of 10, HBO closer. Sometimes it can be just a fun little thing that kind of is halfway thought out, and sometimes they screw it up, and that's funny. Uh, yeah, it's like even what Eddie Murphy's delirious. There's times where he's like, "Hey, what's going on? Is that a camera?" Like he's just like having fun up there, and kind of talking to the audience, and I think people like that too. I know I do as a comedy fan. So I don't think there's anything wrong with kind of letting them be a part of the process. And sometimes they see you right before the peak. Sometimes they see you right after the peak of that joke. But as long as you got a bunch of things in your toolkit, I think it'll be fun for everybody.
Yeah. Now I know we're running a little short on time, but I don't want to miss out on this. Set lists and preparation before you go up. What's your strategy? Do you have it all? Do you stick with it? What do you do
Mm.
those last moments before you step on stage? You have like a pregame warm up thing. What's your strategy as far as that goes?
Well, a lot of it is, and it's also a lot of stuff that I thought everyone did, but then you go, oh yeah, not everyone's a preacher's kid from Georgia who has that. But I used to watch my dad do a set list on Saturday,
Mm.
for the next day, and so a lot of times now I'll write out like what am I working on for this month and year. Like, what am I working on? And I like to get the bits that are working that I want to do, and I want to do as many that are, the formula of the new ones that are working, and then you want to do as least old bits ranked by age. So I want to do the least amount of old bits I can. So I always get, okay, which these work good enough that these can be the act, and I'll need a few old ones just to keep it going, maybe to close with. And then here's the ones that are not quite working great, but they can be in between these. And then here's the brand new ones that who knows how these are, and those go in that part where I'm like, here's the new one. But I like to write down I like to have 2 sheets of paper, 2 really tiny ones of like, this is the act I need to do. This is the framework. And then a lot of the really old bits, I don't have to write them down because I've done them for years, and I'm ashamed to be doing them at all. So I'm going to remember those. I don't need to write them down. Those are like your parachute bits where you're like, shit, I got to get them with the top 3 bits I've ever done. So that's like the fight or flight bits. You don't need so I write down the newer ones, them brand new ones, and then I kind of go with that. And I like to write them down on my big notebook before the show. I like to take my little notebook. I like to have a drink backstage. I like to get to the show at least 30 minutes early and like relax, have a drink backstage. I'm here. I'm ready. I've had dinner. I'm gonna sip and put the finishing touches on here. And usually I abandon an idea. I go, what the fuck? That's not funny at all. Like something about being at backstage at a show and you can hear the crowd like sitting down. You go, of course this isn't a joke, you dumb piece of shit. That was nothing. Oh, what was before light bulbs? And I'm like, that's not funny. That was just a thought. That was a thought you shouldn't have even wrote down.
I can't tell you how many times I've scratched out something that like when I made the set list originally, I was like, oh, I'm going to try this. And then right before I go on stage, I'm like, there's no delete.
But also forcing yourself, that kind of helps your brain remember. And then at a certain point, making yourself do the new jokes. Like I know there's a certain amount of pain I'm just going to feel. So eventually I'm going to try that joke out. And if it bombs, I'll talk about how shitty of an idea it was for a second and hope they laugh at that. But to make yourself kind of rank it, because then that kind of makes your judgment get a little better. And you're like, okay, these are actually better new bits. And then, but I think you should try out every thought, like get up enough to where you even that dumb idea, try it out, because some of them work. Like some of the ones I thought were the dumbest work pretty good. And I'm like, shit, what do I know?
Yeah, that's the crazy part about comedy is stuff like, I think we always try to write closers, like these big massive jokes. And then I was just noticing the other day, I was just watching a bunch of stand-up, and I went to the Cellar in New York a couple weeks ago, and I was just like noticing a lot of the jokes that I laughed out, the crowd really enjoyed, weren't these crazy, incredible, put together jokes. They're just funny. And they just went with it. It's not like they're swinging for the fences with every joke. So I think sometimes we scare ourselves and go, no one's going to think this is funny. But you just got to trust your instincts, I guess, sometimes, and do the thing that's just kind of, I don't know. Sometimes it can feel kind of hack or basic. But if it, I feel like if you had the weird thought, sometimes you just got to go with it, I guess.
Yeah. And people don't mind. Like, I think they mostly just don't want to have heard it. If it's just new, and obviously if it's a closer type amazing diamond of a bit, they don't mind hearing that again because it's got a bunch of parts to it and it's great or whatever. But I mean, when I go see a comic, as long as it's just all new and funny, I never even think that hard back to. I just enjoy it,
Yeah,
and that's a good point.
People aren't dissecting the jokes like we are. They're just there to have a good time and hear something funny. And I think sometimes we have to remember we're just doing entertainment. We're just here to have a good, and they're just here to be entertained, and they're not checking off a checklist while they're listening to the jokes. Like, I should have had a callback. What's going on here?
Right. Because no one does that in life. When you're talking to your friend, you don't go, whoa, what happened to that subject? Do we ever loop back to that? That didn't really have a payoff. Like, you're just laughing and having fun. You don't have to judge. Everything doesn't have to be judged like endlessly.
Yeah.
And it's not like at a mic, they're not like writing tags for you or any of that. They're just taking it for what it is as you deliver it. And we think for whatever reason we get in our head like they're breaking down bits just like we're doing on the
most
show.
of them aren't aware jokes are they think we're talking.
That's right.
True.
It's crazy that I mean, there's more now than there's ever been, but I do think most people are just they're 4 drinks in and they're just having a nice night, and they probably identified 2 things you said that night as a joke, and the rest they're just like, man, he was on fire. He was talking about dating, and he was talking about holy shit. You know.
Yeah, they never remember. I feel like I don't even remember a lot of the jokes. Sometimes I watch someone go, "Oh, it was great," and I'm trying to I'm gonna remember that one, and you get out the door and you're like, "What was that joke about?" Like it's already gone. It was just in the moment. It was awesome, and you walk away and you don't even remember the joke, much less the formula or anything else.
I have to make notes because I watch everybody who comes through the room. I always watch their sets, and I have to make notes to remember it. So there's no way they remember any of it unless it really connected with them at a really deep level. They're not going to remember specific jokes.
Yeah. I don't remember nothing. I don't remember shit.
Well, do you remember doing this Conan set? I'm about to roll your clip.
Oh boy, I do remember this.
Second one.
My shoulder hurt really bad on this one. I don't know if you can tell in the video, but
did it really? That's a little inside.
Yeah. I was carrying too many heavy bags that month.
Oh, you told me about this permanent shoulder damage. Yeah, I've got it too.
Permanent shoulder damage.
Let me go ahead.
Uber Eats getting you down, or what's going on?
It was t-shirts. I'll never do them again.
Koozies.
T-shirts.
Koozies
the way to go.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and roll the clip.
Feeling pretty good. I'm in a good mood. Thought I heard my neighbors having sex this morning. But it was just somebody walking downstairs in their flip-flops real fast. Still pretty good. Pretty good. I was thinking about getting married, so I looked it up. And I saw a survey that said 70% of men cheat on their wives. I didn't know that. 70, that's a lot. And those are just the ones that put it on the survey. Like, hell yeah, cheat on my wife. That's right, survey. Don't know if I trust it. Oh man, comedy's going great. People seem to think I'm a nice guy and stuff, but I don't really think it's that I'm a nice guy. I think it's just that I'm from the South and I treat everybody like they have a gun. And it works great. People be like, what'd you think about the election? I'm like, what did you think about the election? Sir? I don't know. I don't understand politics. I don't understand laws. Like, I think the weirdest law ever is the age of consent law, and I'm glad it's a law. It's a little creepy that it's different in different states. I think that's the creepiest thing I've ever heard of. And I know it's creepy because I just brought it up here, and it just got quieter than it's been all night. But someone brought it up the first day of America. They're all sitting around making rules. Some guy's like, all right, so no sex with anybody under 18. A guy in the back's like, that's more of a states' rights issue, don't you think? And that's why I think we have Republicans and Democrats, because Democrats go, no sex with kids, and Republicans go, what's a kid? Before we make a bunch of rules. Oh man, the town I'm from, Royston, it's very small, only 2,000 people there. One stoplight in my neighborhood growing up, and they added another one this year, and my dad thought that was government overreach. Pretty liberal stoplight. They made Deliverance near my town. Ooh, Deliverance. And here's all you need to know about Royston. We are proud of that. Tell everybody, made Deliverance right down the road. I'm like, that sounds like a threat. Don't tell them. My family, they're always trying to give me ideas for skits. And they're all bad. They're all real bad. And they're proud of them. They're always like, oh, I got a good skit for you. So you go up there. And I'm like, I know where I go. And I'll go up there and be like, hey, y'all think the Chick-fil-A in heaven's open on Sunday? It's a big skit. Sometimes they'll throw a big, long, boring story at me around the dinner table. They'll all take turns saying the most empty thing of their whole year. And they're proud of that, too. They're like, oh, Caleb, you're going to love this one. Me and Carol were out driving, and we drove past the Dairy Queen, and the sign said lizards. And I was like, lizards? said Dairy Queen. And so Carol says, oh, it was Blizzards. And the bee fell off. And we just laughed. We said, if Caleb was here. Oh, he would have loved that typo. We said he should put that in his skit. And they've all got guns, so I put them in the skit. Thank you so much. You guys are great.
Sorry, I should have bailed on that Conan
That
advertisement.
was a nice long advertisement for a show that does not exist anymore.
It's over. Man.
think you're
Dude,
muted,
so
Kim.
I love it's so funny. The all the act outs and the voices, just it adds so much color to your stand up. I mean, the unloyal husband is just hilarious, and the states' rights issue. So combining the great word choice and really clever act outs and characters, it makes it so entertaining.
I think we lost you. I think we lost your mic. Still lost it.
Hold on, now it's on mute though.
What about now?
There he is.
There he is.
Wow. We just got done talking about how he's such a good comedian. I still don't know how mics work. I don't know shit. I don't know when I'm talking. I don't know where I am. But yeah, that was a crazy. I don't know why I wore a suit. Before COVID, I used to wear a suit sometimes, and now it looks like the dumbest thing in the world. But yeah, that one was pretty fun. I usually hate watching videos of myself, but I think I like that. I remember the night that came. Like for some reason, like I don't know if you all hate videos of yourself as much as me, but I can't stand seeing my dumb face. So that hurt a little, but not as bad as it used to. Honestly, it's like after COVID, I'm like, what a weird thing to complain. Like there's people with real complaints, and I'm like, I don't like watching myself on Conan. It's like
You ever get tired of seeing yourself perform on television? It's the worst.
Yeah. So it's like it's cool. Like I used to be like, but I'm better at stand up now than I was, and it's like, calm down.
Yeah. Those act outs are so strong, and they bring so much. And I think newer comics, sometimes we maybe, I know for me, I get really involved in the writing and everything, and I forget that this is a performance art and you need to live it out. And I need to reread the Comedy Bible because Judy Carter is all about the act outs. She doesn't believe punchlines exist anymore. It's all about the act outs.
Oh, really?
That's the crux of that book in Portion, about how like live it out in front of them, create a dialogue, make it a story, put a character in there. And you do that so well, and it brings the bits to life. It makes them visual in the people's head. And I think if there's anything that, comics that are newer want to take away from that performance is like, find a way to not just say and narrate the joke, but make it real.
Yeah. And you're the only thing up there, there's just a mic and a stool and a stand, and it's like I've been to a good play before, and boy, they got a bunch of stuff. On a sitcom, you got a bunch of stuff. You got like Jerry Seinfeld had 3 of the best comedic actors of all time in every scene with him. True. And one of the best writers of all time writing you know what I mean? So he had a lot. And it's like, that's the standard. People could sit home and watch Seinfeld. It's the best show in the world. That's what I do most nights. But you gotta, if you don't have some and there's some comics that don't do it, and I really respect them. That you better write the hell out of a joke if you don't got act outs. I don't know what I'm Dane cooking it out there. I'll do a flip if I have to. I'm trying to get these laughs. So yeah, I'll kick that stool over. I'll do anything. I don't care.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and do our last segment. I warned you about it. It's called Laugh. Oh yeah. So here's a little intro. I hate watching that on video. Okay, so it's very bizarre. But the way this works is last laugh. What Caleb Synan, you passed away sadly, and what is a joke that you're going to have on your tombstone to be remembered by?
Well, I think it's a perfect time to steal a joke. So I'm going to have
thievery.
I want.
The rules are it can be somebody else's joke too, by the way. So it doesn't have to be your own.
Well, me and my buddy Dave just found this website that transcribes entire specials. So I would like all of Ralphie May's Prime Cut engraved onto mine. I would like to have a whole special. So people like going to leave a flower, and then they're like, "The hell is this?" And it's a whole nother comedian's act, and that would just make me happy to lay down there a few feet below him.
It takes a lot of stone, probably. It's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be the tallest headstone. It's gonna be steps. People are gonna love it. I'll be the funniest dead comedian.
More of a shrine than a tombstone.
Yeah, I'm all about shrines.
Yeah, get in there.
Well, good stuff, man. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Tell people where they can get you on social media and anything else fun that they need to know about you.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter. I got banned from Twitter. I'm starting over. I'm at Dumb Caleb. Don't impersonate political candidates, or you will get your Twitter banned. It is against the terms and conditions. I thought it was very funny. But at Dumb Caleb, I have a podcast called What's It Called every Monday. Me and my buddy Dave Ross don't know what our podcast is called, and it's really fun. Check it out. And this was super fun. Thanks for having me, guys. This was great.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for listening, guys. This has been Breaking Down Bits. Come back and see us again. See you, Caleb.
Yeah.
Thanks, Caleb. Peace.
Later.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Down Bits. You can keep in touch or get more when you follow at Breaking Down Bits on social media, visit the website breakingdownbits.com, or shoot us an email at breakingdownbits@gmail.com.